Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to everybody in the room and welcome to everybody on Zoom. We have a good audience here and a high quality audience on Zoom, and it's great to see you all. Clive, could I ask you to identify any particular visitors, Rotarian visitors, on Zoom, please?
Yes, they have visited us before, but we are pleased to welcome Paul Giles from the Rotary Club of Barkingside. Paul was with us last week. And Mike Hodge, past Governor Michael Hodge, he's with us. Pleased to see you, Mike. The other folks are our members. Thank you.
Thank you, Clive. We have a large number of visitors in the room, and hopefully they've all signed the sheet. I won't call them all up because they haven't quite finished eating yet. So, but if I could call out the names, and if you would stand when you hear your name in the room, please. There's Stefan Ritter. Stefan, your club. Zangerhausen, Rotary Club of Zangerhausen, Germany is Stephen's club. Oliver Helgi. From the Rotary Club of Keflavik in Iceland, we have Oliver Helgi, who tells me, translated, his name is Oliver the Saint.
Like that one.
We have Stephen Askew. Stephen.
Thank you. Yes, Stephen Askew from the Rotary Club of Margate, and translated, Stephen Askew means the king of the ocean. And I'll have a word later.
We hope we have the opportunity, Stephen. Stephen is here from Margate because Margate are celebrating, well, we're celebrating last May. It's been extended because of the COVID to next May, their 100th anniversary. And I have on the table in front of me our visitors book from November 1921, when we record 5 members of the Margate Club visiting us on in November 100 years ago. That was, of course, when they were very much younger than they are now. Mike Wren. Mike.
Oh, thank you. Mike Wren, Rotary Club of Redbridge. I have been waiting for my president. Any fruit at all, aren't they?
Thank you, Michael. Mike Wren, representing the Rotary Club of Redbridge, and of course we have other representatives on the screen.
Sorry?
Colin Matthews. Colin.
No, I'm on Apple, please.
Colin Matthews, Rotary Club of Putney. Great to be here again. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, Colin. Always great to see you. And at the same time, actually, yes, Louise, also from Putney.
Louise McCann-Faust from Rotary Club of Putney, and Colin was a wonderful mentor when I was visiting last year.
Louise is the immediate past president of Putney. Chelsea Toe. Chelsea.
My name is Chelsea Toe. I'm past president from District 3450, Rotary Club of Queensway. It's the first charter lady club in our district.
The first Rotary Club in the district, which includes Mongolia, including Mongolia. That's Rotary Club of Queensway in Hong Kong. Welcome, welcome, Chelsea. Jürgen Schumacher. Jürgen. Thank you very much indeed, Jürgen. And it's not your first visit since lockdown. It's always great to see City and Shoreditch here. And Douglas Wagland. Douglas.
Yes, Douglas Wagland, Margate Club. I'm with Stephen here today. And I actually knew Paul members who signed the book in 19.
There was a rumor put. There was a rumor that Stephen Askew of Margate put around that Douglas knew the people who were signing the book 100 years ago, and he's just confirmed that. Under the way you look at the moment, Douglas, you'll be doing another 100 in 100 years' time. Okay. Sorry, Maria.
Yes, my name is Maria Victoria, and I am a member of the club staff.
So Maria
Maria
Nuria. I wasn't quite sure of the surname, from the Rotary Club of Stockholm. Don't come up because we're a bit tight on time, but it's great to see you. Great to see Maria. And are there other members who've not signed? In which case, our most senior member present is the district governor, Selwyn Foreman. Welcome.
President David, thank you very much indeed, and fellows and guests. Delighted to be here. I bring greetings from my president, Edgware and Stanmore, Peter Bradley, and I'm just grateful to be here on a wonderful lunch, and of course all you Zoom.
It's really good to see you. So, now those are visitors. I will now start the meeting, and we have some really sad news to impart to the meeting, which is that our past president, Flo Kaufman, has died last week. And I'm going to ask the on screen and in the room if we will now observe a minute's silence for Flo. We'll be holding a full opportunity to consider Flo's service at the following meeting, but today we will just hold a minute's silence for Flo. Thank you very much for observing that silence. Thank you. I now have the pleasure of welcoming two new members to the club. These are members of other clubs who have come to join, previously been members of other clubs who come to join us, Anne and Elizabeth. We won't be doing a formal welcoming ceremony for them, but I'd just like Anne Hill to stand up. And in the room, let us welcome you from Edinburgh. North. Gurrock. Sorry. I don't know. I got the idea that our speaker today actually was laughing at my errors there. And Elizabeth. Elizabeth, we know very well as Seema's sister, and we have seen Elizabeth in other capacities frequently over the years, but it is really, really good, Elizabeth, to have you now as a member of the club. Thank you. I will now ring the bell I will now call for a toast. We'll have the loyal toast, the Queen.
Queen.
The Queen. Thank you. We're here today, in particular, to celebrate, recall, and use the experience and life of Stanley Leverton for the benefit of Rotary, particularly Rotary in the UK. So I'd like to start by just saying a few words for those who don't know the name or don't know the background of Stanley Leverton. Stanley Leverton is one of perhaps the 2,000 Rotarians that have been member of the Rotary Club of London over the last 110 years. But he is one who made a significant difference to Rotary, both in the club, in the district, in the RIBI, and indeed at Rotary International. But Stanley joined the club in 1914, when there were probably about the same number of members as we have today. The difference is that between 1914, when Stanley joined, and 1919, when he was a very active member, we tripled our size. So he was part of a major expansion in Rotary. He was part of the excitement and part of the mission of taking Rotary to the world. And he started by recognizing that one club could not accommodate more than a restricted number of members and give every member the satisfaction of Rotary. Between 1921 and 1923, following a particular talk by a chap called Harry Lauder, he took on the challenge with Ted Unwin, John Chadwick, and Mr. Pascal, of creating a district. The challenge was, why are there not 1,000 members in Rotary in London? And the only way they could see of doing that was by subdividing the area that the Rotary Club of London held at that time and allowing other clubs to form. And between 1921 and 1923, the various votes that meant giving up power, giving up property, giving up possession took place within the club, and it was all agreed. And then the Rotary Club of London restricted its area to within 2 miles of Temple Bar. And the first club to be formed outside of the area was the Rotary Club of Streatham. This was not enough for Stanley. He then started believing we should have Rotary clubs within the areas of other clubs, that all you needed was the acceptance of the other Rotary club. It was that they could seek members, that they could form another club within a club's area if the members were happy to join. This, however, took change required by Rotary International. And between 1923 and 1933, this advocacy took place. And eventually, in 1933, a motion was put through district, through IBI, that this should be acceptable. The club that wanted to be formed was a club called Finsbury. And this took further debate, further discussion. And in 1943, 10 years later, the Rotary International at a conference agreed that as an experiment, a Rotary club could be formed within another club's area. And the Rotary Club of Finsbury was the first club in the world to be formed within another club's area. And that was down to Stanley Leverton, not ignoring other people around him, but he was the one who kept driving it forward. In this period, just as an aside really, Stanley brought the BBC actively into the club. We had John Reith, who later became Lord Reith, as a member, and he and John Reith in 1926, the year in which he was president, agreed to have a 45-minute broadcast from the Cecil Hotel, at a lunch at the Cecil Hotel. And Stanley took the opportunity to broadcast to the nation in 1926 the existence of Rotary, the purpose of Rotary, and the principles of Rotary. And that broadcast brought telegrams in from around the country and indeed from around Europe. That was moving Rotary on more than a step. It really pushed it forward a mile. So that is why we're celebrating Stanley Leverton. Stanley also was the first person to write a comprehensive history. In 1961, he wrote a history of the Rotary Club of London that we still refer to today. He died in 1964. Thank you, Stanley. I'd now like to call on Clive Amos. Clive, would you please introduce our friend, our leader?
Indeed. Thank you, President David. I am delighted to have been invited to formally introduce Gordon McAnally today. I've known Gordon for many years through Rotary, and I've always admired what he has managed to achieve. You will have read a lot about Gordon in our weekly bulletin. You will also know, and those of you who were with us a little earlier will know, that Gordon spent his professional life as a dentist in Scotland. Gordon lives in the Scottish borders, not far from Kelso, and he is a member of the Rotary Club of South Queensferry. He's been married to Heather for 41 years, and they have 2 grandchildren. Now, I follow Gordon on Facebook quite a lot, and it's interesting, and he's not at all unusual. When you become grandparents, you forget all about your children, and you write all the time about your grandchildren. And I'm always pleased to see what Gordon has to say about his grandchildren. I had the pleasure of visiting Scotland for the handover meeting when Gordon became the RIBI president. And Gordon was then, and always will be, the youngest RIBI president that we have had. He went on to become the RI director, and he also chaired the organising committee that organised the excellent RI convention in Toronto, again, which I had the pleasure of attending. Gordon is no stranger to our club. He came along to the Stanley Leverton Day when he was RIBI president. He's been along to our Burns night, and we've seen him on other occasions. So we almost feel that he's one of us. We're particularly honoured that he's here today because on the 1st of October, Gordon was confirmed as the Rotary International President nominee for 2023-2024. So without further ado, would you please welcome Rotary International President nominee 2023-24, Gordon McAnally.
Well, thank you very much, Clive, and President David, my friends. It's good to be with you. Can I thank you, Clive, for such a fulsome and far too generous introduction. I suspect you have been speaking to my daughters when you make that reference about my granddaughters, because they have said exactly the same thing since the youngsters came along. It's a real privilege to be part of your meeting today, even although it is only on a virtual basis, even though I would much rather have been with you in the Chesterfield in person, but hopefully over the next couple of years, I might have the opportunity to do just that. Being with you today, as Clive has said, I'm no stranger to the Rotary Club of London, and it brings back some happy memories of times spent in your company. I remember coming down for that Burns lunch some years ago, and of course the wonderful centenary dinner that you held in the Mansion House in 2011. I don't know where those 10 years have gone. It's hard to believe it was 10 years ago already. It's a genuine pleasure to be able to address you at this annual Stanley Leverton Day event, and in my case for the second time. I don't know how many people get the opportunity to do that. As President David has already mentioned, it's an event dedicated to the memory of a former member of your Rotary Club and one of the major figures in the history and development of Rotary here in Great Britain and Ireland. Not only did Stanley Leverton serve as the RIBI president in 1952-53, as David has already explained, he was also responsible for a great many of the early developments within the association, and of course that now famous Leverton Plan, which allowed for more than one Rotary Club to be formed in an area. I don't believe it's stretching the imagination too far to say that were it not for the Leverton Plan, Rotary as we know it today might not exist. And another interesting way that Stanley Leverton led the way was in his very introduction to Rotary in the first place. I read with interest that when he was first proposed for membership of Rotary, his classification of undertaker was deemed unsuitable, and he was subsequently accepted as a Rotary member under the classification of monumental mason. And I think that encapsulates a perfect example of the sort of forward and creative way of thinking that we would do well to emulate within Rotary today. When Clive Amos first invited me to join this meeting, he suggested I talk about my vision for Rotary as we exit the COVID pandemic. And of course, I'm very happy to do that. At this stage, I would apologise to any of you who have been following me around the world on a virtual basis over the last few weeks, and as a consequence have heard me speak of my vision for Rotary before. It won't surprise you that my vision doesn't change from week to week. It doesn't change from meeting to meeting, and so some of what you are about to hear will have been heard before. But in truth, my vision for Rotary is relatively simple, in that I want to see us grow and continue to change and innovate, to transform and to improve, to reflect the times in which we live, and in doing so, better serve the needs of those who desire and deserve our help, especially at this pivotal time as we navigate through and out of the current global pandemic. There's little doubt we live in challenging times, and I hope you don't think I'm exaggerating if I say that I don't think things will ever be the same again. But that might not be a bad thing. I'm a great believer in searching out the positives in any negative, and there are a great many positives coming out of the current challenging and some may say negative situation. Positives like the opportunity the last 18 months or so have given us all to stop and take stock and reevaluate our own priorities in life and in the society in which we live. Positives like the opportunity we've had to take stock and reevaluate the way we operate in Rotary at every level, from club through district, Great Britain and Ireland, and all the way to Rotary International. We've heard the phrase build back better a great deal during the current crisis. But it's important that we don't just build back better, but that we also build forward better. And so as we find ourselves approaching the end of another crisis, you, me, all of us have to seize the opportunity to take Rotary forward into what people are calling the new normal. But we need to do it now, before the opportunity passes. We're changing faster than ever at the moment in terms of embracing new technology and new ways of thinking. And I think we've probably seen the sort of changes that would have taken place anyway over the next 5 or 10 years take place over the last year or so. But this pandemic has given us a unique opportunity to draw a line in the sand and review our entire method of operating. And I believe that as we navigate through it, there is much to be learned. Some of the most exciting things about Rotary just now are the opportunities that are coming as far as the way we operate at club level. We only need to look at today's hybrid concept, a wonderful way to have people face-to-face in one place, but also people dropping in from elsewhere via computer. We have much more flexibility. We're welcoming visitors from all over the globe. Last year, after moving to online meetings, my club held a monthly conversation, which featured people like the RI President Shekhar Mehta, the RI President-elect Jennifer Jones, and now immediate past RI President Holger Knacht. We're up to 250 people from as many as 20 different countries attending these evenings. People connected, they shared challenges, and they supported each other through some hard times. In some cases, clubs in different countries, through meeting in that forum, joined together in collaborative projects. And it was a great use of technology and a great way to embrace the challenges. And it could never have happened on a face-to-face basis. So we have a one-off opportunity just now to engage with those people who during the pandemic have embraced the concept of volunteering and have them join us to continue giving service, because membership is the lifeblood of our organisation. It's always concerned me that so many new members choose to leave Rotary so soon after joining. I was staggered to discover that 1.3 million people joined Rotary in the 10 years from 2009 to 2019. Yet over the same period, our global membership fell by 20,000. Now something is wrong somewhere, and with respect, the problem doesn't lie with the new members we lose. It lies with us. We must reduce this turnover, and so the retention of new members through proper engagement with them will be very much part of my vision for membership growth. I know there will be a great base to work from following President Shaker's Each One Get One initiative this year. And so in 2 years' time, I look forward to each one keeping one and making sure that we don't lose the people that we're losing at the moment. I also want to encourage the use of the flexibility now available to allow existing clubs to operate in a way that suits their current and future members now and in the years to come, as well as establishing the new style clubs that are so attractive to a new audience. We're very fortunate that there is now so much opportunity to embrace these new club models that don't need to be bound by style of meeting or geography or suitability of a venue. These new club models allow us to engage with a different audience, an audience that maybe doesn't want to meet every week, an audience that maybe doesn't want to have a meal, an audience that maybe doesn't want to meet face to face at all, but would rather meet in a manner that suits them. These people have every bit as much of a social conscience as me and you, and are every bit as keen to do good in the world as any one of us. Having joined Rotary at the age of 26, and as Clive has said, having served as RIBI president at 46, I believe I can speak from personal experience to the younger demographic with regard to the benefits of Rotary membership. And they are many, way too many to do adequate time to here. But let's not forget others, maybe a little bit older, who have adequate time, savings, and a desire to do good. The flexibility I mentioned earlier means we can appeal to those people too. And so my vision for Rotary is that clubs, groups, call them what you will, exist in a style to suit everyone who has a desire to be part of us and help us fulfill our mission in the world. I'm pleased that Rotary has formally recognised the importance of diversity, equity and inclusion, and our emphasis on this will do us good and will definitely help in further promoting Rotary as a place where all can be welcome and all can feel valued. By attracting a diverse and quality membership, we will enhance our presence on the world stage, and we will increase our ability to do impactful service projects, which, after all, is the main reason we exist. Things are getting better with regards to diversity. Last year, we set a goal of women being 30% of our membership and 30% of our leadership by 2023, and we're making steady progress. At present, 26% of Rotary Club presidents are women, 22% of our district governors are women, 37% of our board of directors are women, and next year that will go up to 47%. And as everybody knows, next year Rotary will welcome its first female president in the shape of Jennifer Jones from Canada. This is well overdue, and we are happy to be making progress. But still, worldwide, we see women only representing 24% of Rotary's global membership, and that needs to change. I believe we can learn a lot from our Rotaractor members, where every facet of our community is already represented. Rotaract membership already has 51% women. And it's interesting to note that Rotaract doesn't talk about women Rotaractors. And I think that's a very significant point, because I think that shows that in Rotaract there is true gender equality. And I long for the day when we stop talking about women Rotarians, because that day will be the day when Rotary too has true gender equality. So we've got a lot more work to do, not only to elevate women in Rotary, but just as importantly, to elevate other underrepresented voices as well. But we will do it. Believe me, we will do it. To turn to another element of my vision for Rotary, allow me to say something about our own charity, the Rotary Foundation. With Africa joining the continents that are polio-free, and with the environment being added as an area of focus, our reputation, our ability, and more importantly, the opportunity we have to do impactful service has grown substantially, and that requires a strong foundation. It saddens me that around 2/3 of Rotarians make no personal contribution to the Rotary Foundation, especially at a time when the demands on it are increasing. Past RI President Ravi Ravindran, a man for whom I have the utmost regard, recently tweeted, "Not everyone has the resource to make a large contribution, but every Rotarian has the ability to make some contribution to our foundation." And I'm inclined to agree. Therefore, as President, I hope to support the Rotary Foundation to not only increase giving overall, but to persuade each Rotarian to contribute something to what is, after all, their charity. My friends, during my 37 years in Rotary, I've seen the changes we have made with my own eyes. I've seen what works. And just as importantly, maybe even more importantly, I've seen what does not work. And I believe that insight is invaluable. All of us in Rotary can feel very proud of our heritage and where we've come from. But please remember, we need to capitalise on the amazing opportunity we have just now to take a greater leap and to move forward faster into a world where we must remain willing and brave enough to continue to change and to transform. Transformation can be daunting, but it can also be exciting and energizing, and we must embrace it and thrive on it. On a personal level, I'm very excited by the Rotary Great Britain and Ireland Action Plan, which, as you know, has recently been launched. I think it aligns perfectly with all 4 pillars of the Rotary International Action Plan, in that it will increase our impact, it will expand our reach, it will enhance participant engagement, and it will increase our ability to adapt. I'm particularly excited by the new governance structure that will see the creation of a new strategic board for Rotary Great Britain and Ireland. And I'm also encouraged at the fact that districts are being asked to adopt a cluster approach to facilitate district and club collaboration and permit bigger and more impactful projects and a consistent cluster-wide image that will attract and engage new and potential members. It's going to be different. It's going to be exciting, and we can make it happen. In fact, I believe it is precisely the sort of forward thinking that Stanley Leverton himself would have been keen to put his name to. Now, if you might allow me to change direction slightly, we spend a lot of time and expend a lot of energy talking about how Rotary should operate, how meetings should be run, how we might attract and retain new members, how we might increase support for our foundation, how we might govern Rotary. In the time remaining, I would just like to say something about the why. I think it's vital that we never lose sight of why Rotary exists. It exists to help people live a better life. It exists to make the world a better place. To borrow the motto of the Rotary Foundation, it exists to do good in the world. But what good do we do? And that, of course, is not always the easiest question to answer. But I would suggest that at the most basic level, the good Rotary does is that it creates hope, hope for the future. By creating hope, I believe we can go a long way into making major inroads into strife, and as a consequence, create a more peaceful and a more loving world. Over the last few years, I have seen with my own eyes many examples of how and where Rotary creates hope. I'm sure many of you have too. But it's worth reflecting on just 3 of those examples now. I've walked alongside people forced to walk miles for water that's both polluted and diseased because there's no pump in their village. These people will drink clean water or not, depending on Rotary. I've sat beside children in remote villages in South Africa reading school books as the evening light faded, and I've seen the joy on their faces as the solar lights we provided came on to give them light to continue studying. These children will be educated or not, depending on Rotary. And only 3 years ago, I watched people in rural Kenya prepared to walk miles on their own to a dental clinic in a remote village because Rotary had promised to stop their pain. These people were going to suffer or not, depending on Rotary. And that's only 3 examples of hundreds more I could give you, where Rotary, where you do good by creating hope. Hope for a more peaceful world, hope for a more caring world, hope for a more loving world, hope for a kinder world. And so I would suggest to create hope provides the answer to the why does Rotary exist. As I draw these remarks to a close, can I remind you that as far back as 1966, the late US Senator Robert Kennedy delivered a speech that included the words, "We live in interesting times." Well, there's little doubt that 55 years later, we all live in interesting times, very interesting times. But I do believe we also live in exciting times, times when we really can transform the way we think and operate on every level, not only for the betterment of Rotary, but also for our planet. Ending poverty and protecting the planet depends on wide-scale transformation made at the personal, community, and societal levels throughout the whole world. Rotary International is ready to embrace change and transform. I'm ready to embrace change and transform, and I hope you all are too. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to meet and speak with you today. I wish the Rotary Club of London, and indeed Rotary in London, every success in the years ahead. I look forward to working with you. Each and every one of you is a credit to the badge you wear, and I am proud to belong to the same organisation as you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed, Gordon. I don't know whether there's any capacity for questions, but I would personally thank you for your message of hope, and particularly thinking of COP26. In my own mind, every club should be a club of leaders. Every member should be a leader, and we should be coordinating the leaders to change our communities. And that is what we're hoping that will happen today, tomorrow, in COP26, that the leaders will actually cooperate and change the future. Clive, questions or not questions?
Yes, District Governor-elect Brian Coleman sent me a message. He would like to ask a question. Brian.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your talk. It was excellent. I've made a personal commitment that the district officers next year will be roughly 50-50 men and women. And I've also decided that I will take personal responsibility for diversity and equality in the district. Therefore, I was very upset to see the RIGB membership of committees for next year with no black faces and only one Asian face. So we take diversity seriously in London, but I'm not convinced that Rotary in Great Britain takes it as seriously as we do.
I take your point, Brian. I unfortunately no longer speak for Rotary in Britain and Ireland. I have to wear an international hat. You're privileged to information that I haven't heard yet. So for one thing, I'm not aware of the makeup of the committees in Britain and Ireland next year. But I do agree. It's so important that we are a diverse and an equitable organisation. And until we are, we still have much work to do. And so, I hope in the position that you will have next year that you will lobby for that in the future.
Eve and then Mo.
Hi, thanks very much, Gordon. That was excellent as usual. And I say the third time I've listened to you in the last 3 weeks. And it is actually different each time, so but always very inspiring and motivating. So really it was a little bit, we're talking at the moment very much about COP26, but I don't think everybody perhaps who's attending this meeting realizes that Rotary is very involved in that as well. So and we were talking about this when the meeting started before we joined the Chesterfield. So I just thought it would be interesting to talk about or ask you to talk about a little bit more about what Rotary is doing for COP26 with the RI president and the Commonwealth.
Certainly that we're involved, I guess you would say peripherally, but we do have an involvement with COP26. I was actually at a private dinner last night with the presidents of Malawi and Sierra Leone, and we were talking about where Rotary could help in those countries, especially with the advent of the environment as an area of focus. And a week Wednesday on the 10th of November, President Shaker and Baroness Scotland, who's the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, as you will know, they are co-chairing a roundtable discussion on the environment in Glasgow. And Shaker will be coming in for that at the start of next week. So Rotary does have an involvement. It also has an involvement through a competition that was run with primary school children, bringing primary school children, bringing the environment to their awareness. And the winners of that competition, and indeed many of the entrants of that competition, their posters have been transcribed onto pop-up banners that will be featuring in the airports and also on the COP26 site within the famous blue zone that Glasgow has now. Glasgow's gone blue.
Thank you. And Mo, finally, that'd be the last one online, David. Mo, would you like to ask your question, please?
Thank you, Clive. And I'm going to follow up with what past District Governor Eve said earlier about COP26. Tony Sharma, the past District Governor, is not here on this call. He and I and the Rotary Club of London are working on the Indus Peace Park project. And that Peace Park project depends on cajoling the leaders of India and Pakistan together and setting up eco parks on the border, one in Pakistan, one in India. And just to follow on what past District Governor Eve was saying, how can we, especially in your year, when we expect hopefully to have the land and to build the park, how can we, as a build-up, use every facility Rotary has to get these two leaders together to think about climate change and a common enemy?
Well, I would hope, first of all, I think it's a wonderful initiative, and I must confess I don't know a great deal about it yet, Mo, but I would like to connect with you and hear more about it. But one of the things that we have to do is we have to bring people together in that area, and I'm sure there will be an opportunity for Rotary Foundation grant funding, that sort of thing, to help be involved in that. So let's to use a wonderful American I'm learning a great deal of American jargon now, so let's circle back on that, and we'll maybe have a chat offline with yourself and Tony and I, and see where we could give you some pointers.
Thank you. Back to you, President David.
Thank you very much indeed, Clive, and thank you very much indeed, Gordon. I now call on in our room Hugh to give a vote of thanks to Gordon. Hugh. While Hugh is coming to the podium, I note on the 15th of November we have people reporting back from COP26, Alison Gowman from the City of London, and we will also have Doug Wills, who's at that round table next week, and they will be together to report back to the club.
Gordon, it has been an honor and a privilege to have you visit us today, albeit on Zoom, and to speak to us. Particularly, I'm sure now, as you have many more committees, you have many more commitments than ever before. As Clive has mentioned, we very fondly remember when you visited us when you were our IBI president, when you especially came from Edinburgh to give the immortal memory at Burns, and when with Heather, you graced us with your presence at the celebration of 100 years at the Mansion House. On that occasion, I was called the gunner at the Mansion House, placed me in a position where I could keep my eye on all of you at the top table. And so, Gordon, we are very delighted that you have come to address us and our club today. On this occasion, when we remember Stanley Leverton and the immense contribution that Stanley Leverton made to Rotary, like Abel of the Old Testament, of whom it was said, though dead, yet he still speaketh. And thank you, Gordon, today for your visit, and thank you for your most challenging and effective presentation. And all I'd ask is that we, having listened to you, will inculcate into our Rotary life and service many of the aims and the visions that you have so eloquently expressed today, and take on your inspiration that you have given us. And Gordon, we who know you and have known you for many years now have always considered that you were destined for greater things in Rotary. So on behalf of all of us, and here today we have District Governor Selwyn, our President David, past District Governors Colin, Mike, and Mike Hodge. And on behalf of all of us, may I express our very best wishes to you in your present role as Director, and particularly when in a short time you take up the role, the prestigious role as International RI President. Thank you, Gordon, and I'd ask you to, in the usual way, to ask all our members to show their appreciation to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It now just leaves on this map for me to clear my screen so that I can present to you, Gordon, the certificate we traditionally, if I can get it without going out of focus. Sorry, technology is beating me again. You'll have to believe me that here I have a certificate that doesn't want to be filmed, which can either send to your home address or send to you digitally, but we'll organize that separately. So thank you very much indeed for that.
Thank you very much.
We're now coming towards the end of our meeting, but before we do, I'd like to invite the member from Margate to say a word or two about their centenary and their experience actually of Stanley Leverton, who will have been very influential in the formation of their club. Would you like to come up first?
Thank you, and hello everyone I haven't spoken to. Greetings from Keith Daly, President of the Rotary Club of Margate. I'm really here to remind everybody that on the 7th of May 2022, you are all invited to Margate to attend our centenary gala dinner, which has been postponed. We're here especially at the London Club because it's our father club. And we look forward to seeing as many people as possible join us for our gala dinner. And maybe, why not a weekend in Thanet? Steeped in history, the most beautiful beaches and the most historic beach and seaside culture in the UK, where everything from bathing machines started to where the Romans landed. So please join us in Thanet, and we hope to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, David.
And I thank Stephen for that introduction to gala dinners. Margate, you are most welcome to join us next Saturday at the East India Club at a gala dinner in aid of Lebanon. We've been very touched over the last year by two things really: the damage done, particularly to the children of Beirut, and by the efforts of the Rotary clubs in Lebanon to help their future generation. We have put great resource into the pediatric hospital, which occasionally has no power. We now wish to put resource into the basic foodstuff that every child needs, baby's milk. We have various channels of supply, but we need more funds. You can trust the Rotary Clubs of UK and the Rotary Clubs of Beirut to ensure that funds get to the individuals, to the children whose lives it is going to save. We've had very good donations so far, but please do not neglect that your opportunity to donate either directly to our treasurer or by attending our gala dinner next Saturday at the East India Club. Full details are online, where you will have the opportunity of auctions and raffles and other exciting ways of donating to that particular cause. Thank you for that. The next meeting will be a revisit by Christo Papa, our cardiac thoracic surgeon, who has had much experience of the impact of COVID on the heart and lungs. And he's going to reveal to us his approach to helping people suffering from that disease and his advice on how we should avoid the similar problems. So please come and listen next week to Dr. Christo Papa speak on his experience as one of the foremost cardiac thoracic surgeons in the country, if not in Europe. Thank you. I now come to our last toast. So any more notices? Nobody's. No. Last toast, Rotary and peace the world over. Please, this is the toast that we could all get behind. To Rotary and to peace the world over. Rotary
and peace the world over.
Rotary and peace.
I will now ring the bell.